Salvete omnes. Hello, everyone. This is Abbey Latin, Liber Primus, Chapter 1. This is a brief history of the Latin language. Let's start with Proto-Indo-European. Proto-Indo-European, it is often abbreviated PIE or PI, is the theorized mother tongue of a large group of ancient people spoken about 6,000 years ago. So about a couple 100,000 years ago, there was a great migration out of Africa. We all come from Africa. We moved out of Africa and began to populate the rest of the world. A large group of people settled in the Balkans. Those are the Indo-Europeans. We call them the Indo-Europeans because they eventually spread all over Europe and into India. That's the Indo part of Indo-European. The language that they spoke about 6,000 years ago, we call this Proto-Indo-European. Proto, from the Greek word for first, means one, it's a first language. Also, it's a theorized language in that we do not have any evidence of Proto-Indo-European, as in nothing was written in Proto-Indo-European. There were no alphabets there at the time, so we've never seen the language. We've never seen a pure word of Proto-Indo-European. We can reconstruct what the language may have been like based upon the child languages of the original Proto-Indo-European. So as this large group of people became separated over time, they moved to different places all over Europe and into India. That one language, that single Proto-Indo-European language, then becomes many different languages because as they move away from each other, the language that each group speaks evolves in a way different from the language of their neighbors. So over time, this creates lots of new different languages around 4,000 years ago. So once again, these people are stretching from Western Europe all the way to India. And their languages, which are now different, they were originally one language, and they are all still related. So start here in Africa, come up through here, Indo-Europeans right here. So around 6,000 years ago, this large group of Indo-Europeans, they're speaking a single Indo-European language, Proto-Indo-European, or PIE or PI. As time moves on, they start to go different places. So they move to here, and here, down here, here, and here, etc. And so we then branch off, and these different language families evolve differently from each other. So what was once one language now is many. So Balto-Slavic languages, they're not just here, they actually extend all the way down here. The Hellenic languages actually go over here. The Italic languages. Now we're going to center on the Italic languages in a second because their story is rather interesting. Germanic languages actually extend all the way here and into here a little bit. The Celtic languages once went down there and up there, but then they're taken over by some very important Italic language coming up. Okay, so what was once one language becomes many different languages. So the reason why English, Dutch, German, and all the other Scandinavian, Germanic languages, they have similar words and similar syntax, is because they're all siblings. They all stem from one parent, one ancestor that is Proto-Germanic. In turn, Proto-Germanic, so that's the theorized early first Germanic language, that in turn was a child language of Proto-Indo-European. So we take a word like the English word father. Here's what father looks like in the Germanic languages, and you can see the similarities because they were once originally the same word from the same language, Proto-Indo-European, that then filtered down to Proto-Germanic, and then that then filtered down to all of these individual languages. And then I also took the English word mother here, same thing. You can see the similarities. So English and even Persian is a Proto-Indo-European language. They're very distantly related, and this relationship is only apparent in a few words. You might not think about it, but yes, English and Persian, they are distantly related. So let's center on the Italic languages, so the languages of the Italian peninsula. They're Proto-Indo-European, came down here into the peninsula. The languages are Oscan, Umbrian, Volscian, Faliscan, Mesopic, Latin, and the Piscine tongues. Notice Greek also makes its way down here. That is a different story for a different time. All of these Italic languages, and we're not even going to really get into Etruscan. Etruscan seems to be an Anatolian language, kind of displaced from Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. So all of these languages here are extinct in that they're not spoken anymore, nor did they evolve or change into a different new language that we still speak today. Latin is still spoken today, just not in the same way or form that the Romans of 2,000 years ago spoke it. Today, we call Latin French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian, etc. The Romance languages, so Romance and Roman. The Romance languages are descended from Latin. So they share characteristics from their parent Latin language. So Latin, right here, spoken by the Latini, the Latin tribes who lived around Latium, Latium, which was called the hiding place. According to mythology, that is where Saturn, who is the Italian Kronos, hid from his son Zeus slash Jupiter when he was trying to kill him. So there Saturn lived and instituted a golden age before he was finally totally overthrown by his son. The city of Rome was founded in 753 BC, and the language of the ancient Romans was Old Latin. So as the city of Rome expanded, and her influence expanded as well, and her armies began to conquer the neighboring Italian tribes, Latin became the dominant language of the administration and the law as Rome's influence grew until finally she engulfed the entire peninsula and then continued to gain lands outside the peninsula. Though many places in Italy did continue to speak their ancestral languages, such as Oscan and Umbrian, those were rather popular alongside Latin, Latin had completely replaced the other Italic languages by AD 100. So it's pretty totally Latin from then on out. The Romans continued to conquer the rest of the Mediterranean. Latin becomes the official language of these conquered nations. We call these nations provinciae, from the Latin provincia, provinces. The base is the word vinceo, meaning to bind, to fetter with chains. These are provinciae, client states. And these client states are going to be using the administrative language of the mother city, which is Rome, and the language being Latin. So after the Roman Empire finally broke up into the territories which become the modern day countries and territories of Europe, Latin continues to be spoken in these one-time provinces of the Roman Empire. They're still speaking Latin, but the pronunciation, the grammar, the syntax of each one's Latin evolves differently from their neighbors. So the Latin that they're speaking in Hispania in Spain is different from the Latin that they speak in Gallia, in Gaul, which is different from the Latin that they're speaking in Italia, Italy, which is different from the Latin they're speaking in Britannia, and Dacia, Dacia, and Achaia in Greece, etc. So that's how we have the different Romance languages today. That's why Spanish is different from French, which is different from Italian, which is different from Romanian, because they spoke Latin differently. The language evolved on a different path from each other. These are the ages, or you could say the stages, of the Latin language as it evolved. So we start with Old Latin, and we're not sure when exactly, we don't have an exact timestamp of when we stopped speaking Proto-Italic and then moved to Old Latin. But we kind of stop Old Latin around circa 80 BC, because then it achieves what we call the quote-unquote Golden Age, so the good stuff. The post-Hellenic, that means the post-Greek authors of Old Latin, are Livius Andronicus, Gnaeus Naevius, Quintus Ennius, Titus Macius Plautus, he's commonly called Plautus, and Publius Terentius Afer, he is commonly known as Terence. These guys are mostly translating Greek works into Latin, and then they branched out and started to create their own Latin literature. So the Golden Age, this is the quote-unquote popular classical Latin that most schools teach when they teach Latin, circa 80 BC to AD 14. It's also known as the Ciceronian Age, and Cicero is the chief author of the Golden Age. So we have Marcus Tullius Cicero, Gaius Julius Caesar is also in there, Titus Lucretius Carus, commonly known as Lucretius, Gaius Valerius Catullus, that's Catullus, and Gaius Sallustius Crispus, and that is Sallust. It continues on. We subdivide the Golden Age into the Augustan Age after the Emperor Augustus takes power. So Albius Tibullus, Sextius Propertius, Publius Virgilius Maro, that's Virgil, Quintus Horatius Flaccus, that's Horace, Titus Livius, that's Livy, and Publius Ovidius Naso, and that's Ovid. The Silver Age closes with, the Silver Age begins with the death of Augustus and the beginning of the reign of Tiberius. We have Seneca, Pliny the Elder, Lucan, Tacitus, and Pliny the Younger. Following that, so after AD 113, in the late 2nd century BC, we moved into the Patristic Age, that is the age of the Church Patres, the Church Fathers. In the 6th century BC to the 14th century AD, Latin is still being used in the medieval age, and then the 15th century AD and onward, the Renaissance of the present day. This is sometimes referred to as Neo-Latin, but yes, Latin is still being used, Latin is still being written, Latin is still being spoken.